Today I'm going to talk to you about my journey through different cultures and foods. So I was born in Delhi, India, where over 20 years I became the true stereotype of a Delhi boy. A Delhi boy, an epitome of Indianness. I did not hold a passport, had never traveled abroad, only watched Bollywood movies, still do, and went to the same Indian restaurant called Punjabi by Nature each time I stepped out to have food, of course, with some experimental adventures at McDonald's. Now, at the age of 21, I moved to Dubai, UAE, for work and money. And that's where I met culture shock. Now, my first day in the city, I entered this building. Let's call it a tower. I walk towards the elevator, enter it, look towards my right, and I see these numbers 7 and 2 written right next to each other. There were 72 floors in that building. That was culture shock. Honestly, having said that, with around 50% of the population in the UAE belonging to the Indian subcontinent, Dubai was still a home away from home, a cleaner, tax-free, better version of India with bigger cars, bigger banners, and even bigger buildings. But still, the Delhi boy, I sought comfort in familiarity. Now going to the Dubai branch of Punjabi by Nature, and still experimenting at McDonald's. And then this happened. I moved to Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, as someone who prefers vegetarian food, South Africa was interesting. Let's call it tough. Now, Punjabi by Nature did not really have a branch there. And other Indian restaurants were way too expensive. So what do? Guess what? I turned to McDonald's. So I drive to the nearest McDonald's, ready to order, and then I walk up to the counter, and then I hear a sentence that changed my life. The woman right across the counter says, "Sir, sorry, but we do not really serve a veggie burger." Devastating. But you know what this did? Being in this unfamiliar territory pushed me not only to explore a new cuisine, but also to explore a new culture. So I steadily, slowly, reluctantly, but surely started integrating with South African culture. I started going to local bars to enjoy some South African music, started buying local food brands. So I did change. And now I'm here in the forest of Fontainebleau at INSEAD with over 90 nationalities, even more cultural identities, ethnicities, dialects, languages, religions. This place is different. The people here are different. The people here love burritos, they love pasta, pizza, Indian curry, sushi. The collective taste buds at INSEAD represent the appreciation people here have for different cuisines, different foods, and by extension, the different cultures that bring these foods. I personally started cooking here, enjoying hummus in my burgers, tortillas with Indian curry, and some pasta with Indian spices. Pasta with Indian spices, yes, it might look like any other pasta, but trust me, it's different. Now, after cooking, eating, living, traveling, breathing in all these places, I would like to believe that I'm somewhat international. But I feel that these experiences have shaped me into something more than just multicultural, something more than just international. I, like many of you here, identify with an emerging community of a new kind of people. People who I choose to call global citizens. Now, the global citizen cannot really be defined by the number of languages they speak or the number of countries they've lived in. Global citizen is more than being just a migrant or a traveler. It is a choice. It's a way of thinking. It's an outlook. The global citizen is emotionally and intellectually committed to the basic unity among all human beings, but at the same time appreciating but not being obsessed by the differences that exist between different people, cultures, and communities. And with modern communication, technology, transport, this community is growing faster than ever, growing both in influence and size. So as this community, group of people, grows bigger and bigger, one thing to watch out for would be its cultural identity. Now, typically, the culture of any community is defined by some shared values that it derives from a common history, religion, culture, language, etc. But in this community of global citizens, there's no such homogeneity. Then the question is, what would this community look like? What would be the cultural identity of global citizens? And with a sense of belonging to this community, I set out to find some answers, setting up a qualitative ethnographic research to understand expatriate acculturation experiences across many countries. And then I compared the results of my research to the current scholarly work that has been done in this space. Now, the current theories throw up many acculturation models. And two really popular ones are assimilation and separation. And these models I choose to explain or discuss or think about through the analogy of soups and salads. Now, the soups represent the theory of cultural assimilation, where different ingredients get together, losing their original identities to form something, a final product of a new flavor, new consistency, a new color, but one flavor, consistency, and color. Now, in the vegetable soup of South Africa, I somewhat felt like a tomato. A tomato blended, leaving my Indianness behind. I started going to game parks, having braais. Having said that, I would be lying if I said that I was entirely happy doing so. In my effort to belong, me, the Delhi boy, did feel lost. So now if we try to imagine this community of global citizens as a soup, some fundamental issues crop up. Now in a soup, all cultures blend, mix to give a new kind of culture. But this culture usually and often ends up being the culture of the dominant community. So the melting pot ends up giving a soup, a vegetable soup, that tastes too strongly of one ingredient. This is just not possible in a community of equals. In the community of global citizens, the dominance of one ethnic group is just not possible. It's not sustainable. So let's think about a salad. In a salad, ingredients retain their integrity, flavor, their look. In Dubai salad, I was still a tomato. I was mixing with other cultures, but not really integrating. So I was interacting in picking up some cute cuss words in other languages, but I never really went beyond that. I largely remained a desi, a term we use to describe people from the Indian subcontinent. And in retrospect, doing this, being a tomato in a salad, not integrating, somewhat limited my learning, my experience. So can the community of global citizens be a salad, make a salad? I'd reckon not. Because the idea of separation, the idea of marginalization, just does not resonate with this community that actually survives and thrives on interaction, on exchange of ideas, on cross-pollination of thought. So if neither a salad nor a soup, what would we make? What would you and I together look like? And I'd say we'd look like a risotto. A risotto where you and I could be mushroom or peas, rice or garlic, all connected through a common sauce. The common sauce of global culture. INSEAD, the business school of the world, for the world, is a risotto, where as global citizens, we are not really abandoning our traditional identities, our religion, our homeland, our ideas, history, thoughts, family. In fact, these identities continue to define who we are. But what connects all of us together is that sauce of cultural exchange, of ambition, of exploration, of ideas, of learning. So convinced about us being and making this risotto, I'm even more excited by the opportunity of being more than just ingredients. Being more than just ingredients, being the makers of the sauce, being the chefs. And as the connectors of the world, being the definers of the imperatives that are discussed in this world in the next few decades. Discussing issues like global warming, environmental concerns, world economy, online human rights, virtual wars, space traffic control. But the fact is that with the ability, the opportunity, and the access to define this global agenda comes the responsibility to do so well. And we all know how tricky it can be to get a risotto just right. So dear global citizens, whoever you think you are, mushroom, garlic, peas, rice, I invite you, please jump into the pan. You might feel the heat, but let us get this risotto just right. Thank you for listening.